Thank you for your generosity. It is what sustains us and allows us to do what we need to do. Our meditation today is a reading that I'm going to do, but as I read, I'll be pausing. And in that pause, just take a breath and be with the thought that I have just said to you. Spirit of life, both within and around us, be present to our collective yearning for renewal in this moment. Life has become super lifey these days with the demands and pressures of jobs and roles, tugs of the heart of people in places we miss and long for, the ways that when so much is asked of us, we crumble just a little bit more each day under the weight of it all. With soul-crushing, devastating news and updates from around the world and in our own communities, the loved ones in our lives hurting and struggling, the ways that we are hurting and struggling. Spirit of life, we pause to acknowledge the many challenges of life and send love and care within and out in the world. We pause to honor and hold space for the struggles we experience in our bodies and in our spirits and send love and care to those tender places. We pause to receive the abundant mystery and grace, the power of love that is greater than ourselves to heal and nourish us. And now let us take just a few moments in silence together. And take a breath and come back into the space. So this is our ingathering. And I wanted to give you a little context for it because it's been going on for a really long time. Now, you have to take yourself back to the 19th century for a few moments. It wasn't that great of a century, well, I'll be honest with you, but people did their best. But you have to kind of imagine that many Unitarian churches, many churches of all kinds, suspended worship services in the summer, especially in the cities. So people would leave the cities for the salutary air of the countryside or the mountains, and they would stay all summer. This is where the Chautauqua movement grew up in Western New York, where people could gather and learn things together. It's still going on, by the way. You can still go to Chautauqua even now. So where my sister lives in the Catskill Mountains, this summer migration just produced a multitude of hotels and bungalows in the Catskills. And that in turn led to the Borscht Belt, which interestingly enough, they are regenerating honor and respect for in that part of the country. But Charlotte and I were walking in a little town called Ellensville. And at that time, Ellensville had 35 hotels and innumerable bungalow colonies, which basically were little tiny sets of cabins that people could come stay in. So it was a big movement, this summer migration. Now I have to point out that people going to the countryside for fresh air is a nice way to spend your summer. But if you were a farmer, the furthest thing from your mind would be taking time off in the summer. Summer to them just meant you got up earlier and worked later in the day because there was more daylight. So I guess there's a little classism in that. You had to have the resources to be able to do that, and you had to have the kind of work that would allow you to miss that much time in the summer. Ministers also had this time off because it was felt like they needed time to recuperate from the year's work that had happened prior to that. And some churches, some Unitarian Universalist churches and fellowships in particular, still suspend services in the summer. And so from this tradition, this fall ingathering service came into being. And if you look at the history of churches in the 19th century, this also kind of tied in with the first fall festivals that were going on. So it was a time of celebration. It was a time of return. It was a time of recommitment, I think would be the word I would use for it. So whatever the reason, this marked the end of summer and the beginning of a new church year, with hopefully everyone returning refreshed and renewed. I will also take a little side note there to say, at that time, as well as this time, women were largely responsible for the care and feeding of the family. I think of my mother when I think of this, because she would haul 5 children out to my grandmother's farm in the summer, and we thought it was a vacation. My grandmother's house had electricity, but it did not have running water. And so imagine my poor mother trying to get 5 children bathed in a tin tub, and let me just say, you did not want to be the 5th child into that. So really, you know, we talk about renewal, but only certain kinds of people got to have that refreshment. Oh, and by the way, my aunt's family next door had 7 children. So there were 12 children, feral children running around. Fun for us, not so much fun for them. All right. But the water ceremony as part of that ingathering is pretty much more recent. It was created by a group of Unitarian Universalist women, and you will note that the opening words specified white women. And that's true because if you look at the history of feminism at that time in our country, women of color were not included in that. And also lesbian women were not included in that. So, you know, it was a movement that had a lot of gaps in it. And so the opening words were just kind of a way of acknowledging that this was a particular group of women who were able to do this. But included in that was Carolyn McDade, who wrote The Spirit of Life. And in 1980, which is when this water ceremony happened, the Unitarian Universalist women were really questioning the limitations that were placed on them by the church of that time. You know, which had forever just sort of looked at women as secondary to the men who ran the church. So the women at that time weren't really allowed in positions of authority in the church. And while there were women pastors in the movement, they weren't particularly encouraged to take that line of work up. So that was all part of the thing that was stirring there. So the first water ceremony was created in order to help these women kind of reclaim their power and their place as spiritual beings. And over time, as so often happens, the water ceremony has evolved. And it became integrated into this homecoming idea of the ingathering from summer travels. So it became a more general way to allow people to share their summer journeys as they rejoined their congregations. Now, as things do change over time, sometimes they go in a particular direction that isn't, let's just say, quite as insightful as we might like it to be. So sometimes that just became like a travelogue, you know, what did you do on your summer vacation? So as I planned this service, I kind of wanted to be aware of the roots of this ceremony, because that experience of the water ceremony in the 1980s was very powerful. And it probably began the process of creating some important changes in how our faith sees women and the work they do. So I always say there's much we can learn from their courage in taking those first steps. I also wanted to reclaim the heart of the ritual, making it more than a travel story, although let me say those are really important, but more how we reflect on where we've been. We've all journeyed this year. Some of those journeys were for the pleasure of being with those we love, or the joy of seeing new beauty and new places. Some of our journeys have been perilous and internal and ongoing. They may not have been filled with joy, yet that is where we've been. We can't refuse the journey. It's just what awaits us, and we must go. But today we have a chance to pause and reflect. We can share our journeys with one another, and we can take strength and love from being in this beloved community. So now what I'd like to do is I'm going to turn the camera around so that it's focused on the table, and I will hold the mic for you because I would like you to come up, and if you brought water from home, you can add it to the bowl. If you didn't bring water, because some people have those little vials that used to have, there's a pitcher here. Just pour a little of the water in the bowl. You don't have to say anything if you don't want to, but where is the water from? And what does it symbolize for you? And so let's just begin. And then there's a part two to this after we all put our water in. So I will start. Oh. I have to start, but apparently I'm not.
See how we can do it.
Hmm.
You want the person or the?
No, I think just the bone. Good enough. We're going to be such a lose. This water is from the Beaver Kill River and Willowimont Creek in upstate New York in the Catskill Mountains. They're very famous fly fishing streams. And so one of the things I love to do most when I'm there is to get my fly fishing gear and put on my waders and go stand in the water. Now, that's irrespective of the fact that I never catch any fish. But to me, it represents when I feel like I can stand right in the middle of beauty. That's a pretty powerful experience for me. And it also reminds me that solitude is good for the soul too. So I'm going to add beauty and solitude and being in the middle of nature. Next.
I don't really have anything to say. I actually forgot my water and I always bring it, but this time I didn't. I will add this in. I'm gonna put a lot in now. I just feel like this past year has been extremely hard. And just hard. We did have a birth of a baby, so I have another grandkid, but it's just been a hard year. So I have to kind of learn to have some joy in my own life, even if I can't control everything else that's going on outside.
Don't walk in me. I'll go to this way, in case I get tipsy. This water is for memories of planet, which are important. And also Indianapolis water. I remember the water I traveled from Michigan, the Pacific, the Atlantic, the Gulf of Mexico, the Caribbean, Ireland, and what. Now my water is at home. I was fortunate to find my perfect home where I can sit, see the trees, and watch the birds and the squirrels and yes, the chipmunks. So that's covering my water. It is not the Gulf of America.
Oh my God, no.
Well, this water for me comes from, Cape Cod, from specifically Provincetown. It was a bittersweet trip for me because it was my first time back to Provincetown since the loss of our good friend Ann. And Pat, Sherry, and I spent lots of wonderful time together. Lots of wonderful time at the Cape. And she lost her battle several years ago now, a few years ago now, with breast cancer, a second reoccurrence. And it was a deep, deep loss for me. And so it was a little bit of a time of healing. And an opportunity to, again, do a lot of remembrance. And, it's such a gorgeous place. So I thank Ann and Pat and Sherry for sharing.
By the way, even if you don't wish to speak, which is perfectly fine, please do come up and add some water to the bowl. It turns out that that will be important.
Our daughter got married this summer. And the ceremony was overlooking a lake in western North Carolina. And the pictures from there are really gorgeous. Hopefully we'll get some blow ups and bring them in. It was a very happy occasion. I think she's chosen it really well.
Good point.
Would you like me to put some in for you so that you don't? I'm gonna add this water for Bonnie. Who doesn't feel the need to challenge her balance at this exact moment. Meg, this is Meg, in case you haven't met her. And what a brave woman. This is her first time here.
It is, I haven't stepped foot in any kind of church except for weddings and funerals in the better part of 30 years. I,
I don't know, that makes me feel kind of special and kind of afraid at the same time.
so this is from my house, which might seem like a cop out, and maybe it kind of is, but in all honesty, my house that is my first house that I've lived in for less than 2 years, and I've been turning it more into a home, and a big part of that has been native plant gardening, planting a bunch of plants that pollinators like and all of that, which is something I didn't have the opportunity to ever do before. And that has been a big source of joy for me. Which is good because this year I've been dealing a lot with anxiety, those internal struggles you were talking about. Which has made it a little difficult for me to leave my house from time to time. So it's kind of my sanctuary. So that.
Thanks very much for sharing it.
This water just represents life, I guess, and the ability for me to run, because without it, I'd get very dehydrated. And I still do sometimes, so drink lots of water. Everybody.
I'll be sweating the last 10K.
Anyone else? Can I add water for some? Judy, can I put water in for you? Put a little water in for Judy. Frankie? Little water in for Frankie. Brittany?
Yeah, water.
Pool water, she says. Because you spent your summer in the pool?
The why.
At the Y.
Water.
Water for the Y, all right.
Water for the flowers, we all.
Exactly.
Sherry,
Lori,
Lori needs some water.
you need some water? I'll add it for Lori. Oh, I want to add a little for Tom, who, as some of you know, I already said that, broke his leg. I know that if he were putting this water in, he would say that it represented New Hampshire for him and his travels there.
Water in for Stacy.
Put water in for Stacy, who is having fun in North Carolina with her cousins.
Add a little bit for Scott.
Scott
Marilyn can use some.
and Marilyn can use some,
And everybody else who.
and anyone else who's
Jan.
Jan and
Jan,
Steve. Yes,
Bill and-
this is for everyone who could not be here today.
There we go.
All right, excellent. Now,
Empty that picture.
now here's part two.
just as it's important to add your water to the bowl, it's equally important to take some of the shared water home with you as a reminder of our shared journeys and the love we create with and for each other. So I'm trying to think, I think it would be easier if you could come up. I have a basket full of vials. So what I need for you to do is just dip your vial in and take some of this water. And I found for myself that when I do that, it's not that I look at the water every day, but I encounter it a lot over the year, and it reminds me that we're in this together. And so I'm going to start by taking some water into my vial. And for you, Lynn. Hmm? Oh, it was plenty of love.
Oh, yeah.
Mhm. And I think I'll do one for Scotch too. One for you. One for Scotch. So there's just a few things that I would like to read to you while you're holding your water. We take these waters to name our empowerment, to name our strength to be ourselves, and to name our ability to rise up and move forth. We take these waters to call forth our power of questioning, our powers to doubt, our powers to examine every definition and every authority outside ourselves. We take these waters to name our imagination and creativity, our power to unveil our thinking and to create new visions. We take these waters, symbolic of our becoming, to name the reclaiming of our energy and loyalty, to signify that we put ourselves, the thoughts of our minds and the work of our hands, to what we most deeply value. We take these waters, symbolic of a new genesis, to name our love of this earth, of our connectedness with people everywhere, and of our devotion to life itself. Keep those thoughts in your heart as you move into your new year this fall. And remember always how deeply connected we are to each other. We are here for each other. We are connected to each other. We are beloved community. So at this time, I have some closing words. Slideshow.
Forgot to show you the slide for the meditation. So our closing words are from Corey Holly Hurt. Love holds you. Love bears witness to all your inherent dignity and worthiness. It witnesses how you try, succeed, and fail, and it does not flinch. Love will not let go. Love holds all of you. And at this time, if we can, I don't think we need to stand up since we're down here in the semicircle, but if you would join with me to sing our closing song. May love surround us with warm, gentle arms. May love surround us and keep us from harm. And may we always continue to grow. May we share kindness wherever we go. I pitched it low for Stacy.